Hello and welcome to my presentation into why you should consider using a CFTS accredited member to conduct your thorough examinations and the benefits for doing so. My name is Matthew Kennedy and I'm one of the technical managers for CFTS. My role is to assess new member applications and ensure all member companies follow our strict quality assurance procedural code. I carry out planned audits on member companies with a view to maintaining standards, and I regularly answer technical queries as raised by our members and their competent persons. I am also on several review panels for standards and have close links with other trade associations. So who is CFTS? For those of you who don't know, CFTS, or Consolidated Fork Truck Services Limited, is a joint venture company between BITA, the British Industrial Truck Association, and the FLTA, the Forklift Truck Association. We were initially set up in 2004 at the request of the HSE to train members and set the industry standards when conducting thorough examinations. Our quality assurance procedural code sets out the requirements for membership and provides clear guidance for the competent person while conducting thorough examinations. We have many different types and sizes of members, from the smaller companies employing just one or two competent persons to main manufacturers employing 300 competent persons and everything in between. We adhere to the requirements of BITA Guidance Note GN28, which is thorough examination and safety inspection of industrial lift trucks. This is the definitive industry guidance for forklift trucks, as it details exactly the scope for what should be inspected, and it expands on the more generic lifting equipment legislation under LOLA 98. This guidance is also in alignment with European practice under FEM 4004 and stipulates all lifting equipment must have the mandatory thorough examination under LOLA Regulation 9 and, crucially, the safety inspection under PURA Regulation 6. This is to ensure the whole equipment has received a truly thorough examination. The user of industrial equipment has a duty to ensure work equipment is safe to use. These requirements can be found in LOLA, the Lifting Operations and Lifting Equipment Regulations 1998, and PURA, Provision and Use of Work Equipment Regulations 1998. Industrial equipment come under both sets of regulations, but it's important to remember that LOLA sets out the code of practice for all lifting equipment, including chains, masts, and forks, and PURA sets out the code of practice for other work equipment, which includes items such as brakes, steering, and overhead guards. So why choose CFTS for your thorough examinations? The main reason is because under CFTS, you are guaranteed to have the whole equipment inspected. In a recent survey, 9 out of 10 site managers believed a thorough examination under LOLA meant the whole machine would be inspected. LOLA only relates to the lifting part of a truck, and therefore items such as the brakes, steering, and traction may not be inspected. Items like these, as we said, come under PURA and may not be included within another company's scheme of examination. For this very reason, because there are so many truck variants, it is important to know that under CFTS, a thorough examination is always compliant with both LOLA and PURA, and it takes as long as it takes. There should be no time limit when conducting a thorough examination. If your current thorough examination is completed in, say, less than half an hour, I would be asking some serious questions about how thorough the competent person has been, and has that competent person complied with just the lifting parts under LOLA, and have they inspected the rest of the truck under PURA? According to BITA research, 30% of RID or reportable equipment failure on forklift trucks are due to failures of the lifting chains, and a further 20% are due to fork wear or damage. This emphasizes that LOLA isn't just a tick box exercise. It has genuine safety implications. To ensure that chains and forks will be safe to be used in operation until the next thorough examination, we follow industry best practice as laid down in BITA Guidance Note GN15 for chainware and GN62 for fork arm wear. Where equipment still has some useful life, the examiner's report will specify for how long it can continue to be used before the replacement parts are fitted. It is also important to remember that the competent person is duty bound to send a copy of their report the relevant enforcement authority if they find an existing defect or imminent failure of a safety critical element associated with the lifting parts of the truck. All CFTS members are fully aware of these responsibilities following a thorough examination. All CFTS competent persons will have a license to operate the equipment, as this will be required to fully conduct an examination. As an example, a safety critical part of the examination is to carry out a parking brake functional test. The competent person must drive the truck with a representative load to the steepest gradient on the site. The handbrake must then be applied and the truck should remain safely stationary. Another critical test is on the truck load handling system. Testing for this should once again use a representative load. The competent person will then mark the load and measure any drop within a 5 or 10 minute period, depending on the size of the truck. There should be no drop for man-up equipment, but there is an allowable amount of drop for industrial trucks under GN 28. In total, there will be up to 38 individual tests or measurable inspections for each equipment under the CFTS scheme, to include load handling, braking, steering, traction, safety systems, and the structure. It is also worth noting that in order to fully examine a piece of lifting equipment, the competent person must have the tools available to do this safely. This not only applies to a chain gauge or fork caliper, but also to lifting jacks, blocks, ladders, mast straps, chains, safety barriers, all the tools needed to fully test and examine the truck. Under CFTS, you would also have your equipment inspected by a truly experienced, competent person. Under LOLA, the requirements for a competent person is for them to have the appropriate practical and theoretical knowledge and experience of the lifting equipment. All CFTS competent persons must also have a minimum of 5 years' experience as a service engineer, and they must attend an approved training course with revalidations taking place every 5 years to ensure they are kept abreast of any changes to legislation. A CFTS competent person is also authorised by their current employer to ensure they only carry out examinations on equipment they are familiar with. CFTS keeps a record of these competent persons and remind members when their training needs revalidating. Furthermore, BITA GN28 details the full scope of a thorough examination as follows: to verify the truck is operating as it is intended to when lifting and travelling, to identify defects and weaknesses which could compromise the safe use of the truck, to specify the timescales within which identified defects or weaknesses need to be rectified, to assess the correct function of all the safety devices, to check that warning notices are correctly fixed and legible, and when necessary, specify any limitations on the use of the truck, for example, pending completion of remedial activities. CFTS believes that only a competent person with real-time experience and knowledge can truly fulfill these requirements. All CFTS members are also required to use approved and vetted documentation. This documentation was initially written with the help of the HSE and is fully compliant with Schedule 1 of LOLA and Regulation 6 of PURE. This documentation not only lists any defects found and the timescales for repair, but also any observations and items that need monitoring. Crucially, each inspection includes a checklist which details exactly what has been inspected and shows how thorough the competent person has been. This documentation has a full audit trail and will be made available to CFTS upon request. CFTS trained competent person will also affix a next examination sticker to the truck upon completion of the thorough examination. This sticker acts as a reminder to both the user and the operator to ensure the next thorough examination is booked before the current thorough examination report expires. Using a piece of lifting equipment after a report has expired would likely mean invalidating any insurance, but more crucially could mean potential defects going unnoticed. CFTS also supply action required by labels. These can be applied to the equipment to highlight timescales for any repairs to be completed by. Once again, this is a useful reminder to the operator not to use the machine if this date has passed and the required repairs have not been completed. Another reason to consider CFTS for your thorough examinations is because you will not be far away from a CFTS member. We currently have 500 members with around 600 depots throughout the UK and Ireland. In total, there is a team of 2,000 trained and experienced competent persons working under our scheme. To find a list of approved members, please visit our website at www.thorough.examination.org. You can do a postcode search or use the interactive map to find the nearest or most suitable member for your forklift thorough examination needs. All CFTS members will also be kept up to date with the latest legislation and guidance. As mentioned earlier, CFTS have direct links with both BITA and the FLTA, and therefore we are regularly updated with any proposed guidance notes or technical bulletin changes. Of course, the key changes will be passed on to our members at the earliest opportunity to ensure they are fully compliant. I previously mentioned BITA Guidance Notes GN28, which is the thorough examination and safety inspection of industrial lift trucks. In June 2021, this received a major update. The working group for this document included all the truck manufacturers, the HSE, CFTS, and many other industry experts. This revised document was distributed to all our members and is therefore available to all CFTS approved competent persons to ensure your thorough examination is fully compliant with the very latest industry guidance. It's fair to say that most thorough examinations are scheduled and conducted yearly, but are you fully aware of the site conditions that may require more frequent examinations? For example, equipment used for lifting people, no matter how infrequent, must receive a 6-monthly examination. The same 6-monthly interval applies to non-permanent attachments. Lorry-mounted trucks must also receive a 6-monthly thorough examination, as the operator may be lifted clear of the ground whilst loading and unloading. In certain circumstances, it may also be advisable to carry out a 4-monthly examination to take into account their transportation on salty roads. Industry guidance also requires equipment used in arduous conditions should receive a minimum of 3 examinations per year. Some examples of arduous conditions include cold stores, which is below -10 degrees Celsius, marine environments, metal manufacturing, corrosive chemical environments, cement or aggregate, brine processes, or excessive hours usage, for example, above 80 hours per week. Put simply, any site-specific conditions that would have a detrimental impact on the truck. A CFTS trained competent person will be fully aware of these and many other factors and can advise you on the correct examination scheme to ensure any defects are highlighted and actioned before they result in unnecessary risks. Another benefit to having a CFTS approved competent person carrying out your thorough examination is the possibility of them carrying out safety critical repairs directly following a thorough examination. This would mean your equipment could be back up and running safely without any lengthy downtime. I do, however, want to make this clear that this practice should be the exception and not the norm. Ideally, the thorough examination and maintenance should be separated by using independent and impartial examiners to allow objective decisions to be made without fear or favour. LOLA, however, does not expressly preclude the person carrying out the maintenance from also conducting a thorough examination, provided that the thorough examination was completed first. All CFTS competent persons will also be experienced engineers and will therefore understand their duties and responsibilities following a thorough examination. They will have understood the protocols and will be fully aware of their duties under LOLA and our procedural code. So in summary, choosing CFTS for your thorough examinations will give you peace of mind that your truck will be examined and inspected under both LOLA and PURE. Your appointed competent person will have the necessary skills, knowledge, and integrity. The documentation supplied will be detailed and fully compliant to Schedule 1 of LOLA. It is an industry and HSE recognised scheme of examination. The examining body and competent person will be following the latest legislation and industry guidance. For more information, please visit www.thorough.examination.org as there is a wealth of advice for those wanting to learn more about CFTS direct examinations. Many thanks.